What is up, everybody? Oh, welcome back. Oh, I'm back. And I always bring special guests with me because, Scevoli always brings the guests in my evil look pose, always. We have a very special guest on the Scevoli Tonight Show. His name, you might know him from The Mandalorian. You might know him from the Book of Boba. You might know him from a Civil War fan film coming out soon. You might just know him because he's a good-looking guy or at cons or something like that. You might just know him, I don't know. You might know Rory, It's a good name, Rory Ross. It just rhymes, it just rhymes. But we have a very special guest, Rory Ross, everybody.
Hello there, my friends. Thank you so much for coming back, Chris. Appreciate it, man.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I just got back from Rebel Scum and had a really great time there in Texas. We stayed away from the outside. It was 101 degrees, so I stayed inside the whole time. But it was really great just seeing all the different fans. So many great cosplays. There's this kid named Kai who had an awesome cosplay as Din Djarin. It was a great time to have this sort of camaraderie happen where we didn't have Celebration this year, but we had all these people from the prequels, from the OG, trilogies, and then also for us from the TV shows. But for me, like seeing Ahmed Best and Michonne and Amy, it was so cool. And I have a picture with all of us from the prequels, and I was like,
You were geeking out yourself.
Oh yeah, 110%. I was like, I don't know who's more excited right now, the guests that are over there or me, like having this experience happen and being like,
I really love what Rebel ScumCon did over there because I had Bobby on the show a couple weeks ago and he told me everything, and it's a great time to have a Star Wars convention because you really don't have like a themed Star Wars convention. You just have Star Wars Celebration and then maybe a little one somewhere over the country, I don't know, or the United States of America, I really don't know. But then you have Rebel ScumCon and it brings everybody together. And I love how, like, even in the credits, like now, like if you see The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba or Obi-Wan, like you get the credit for it. You know what I mean? Like they have your name, and that's what I love because, with The Mandalorian, Pedro is not always behind the mask. Right. You have so much talent. Brandon Wayne, Crowder. I think, am I going to say his name right?
Lateef. Yeah, Lateef. Yeah.
Lateef. I don't want to say his name, butcher his name, and many more under that mask. Mm-hmm. And I love when they give them credit on the end of the credits because it's like, good. Pedro Pascal is a good part of The Mandalorian, don't get me wrong. But he's not under the mask. He's not doing the acrobatics. He's not doing the fight scenes. He's just under there just to be like, hey, everybody, it's me coming out and then going back to hiding. And this is us, which is an amazing show, by the way. But yeah, so I'm glad that they start giving you that recognition. You invited to cons like Dimitri, you, Romeo, Lisa, even the little Jawas, Christina, who played R2 and stuff like that. Like, I love seeing that because you guys deserve that recognition. And it's larger, you're the guys are the small people in the Star Wars universe, And I just love how they give credit to you guys because you guys do such an amazing job behind your stunt work and you're just awesome. That's really
well. Because to kind of piggyback off that a little bit, it's really great to see in general all the people getting the credit. There's so many people that bring these shows to life. Costumes, makeup, wardrobe, which is costumes, but and grips, electricians, all this stuff. And so I hope sometimes people actually watch all the way through the episode to see all these different parts that have to come into play in order to bring this story to life. Post-production, pre-production, the whole 9 yards. And for us too, it's really great to have an opportunity, as you said, kind of get that credit or that recognition in some sense. But also we are the ones that bring the scenes to life. Like you can have your main cast having these emotional moments, but if you don't have any context of what is happening in that world, especially like as an example, the night scene that we did for when Bo is doing the plead for us to go back to Mandalore. If you didn't have this tension and all these different people kind of coming into play and giving their own point of views or perspectives on what's going on in each person, how they feel about a different character, then you kind of have a dead scene. And so it's really cool to not only be a part of it, but then also to have kind of these moments where we get to share those stories with the fans and also nerd out, just like everybody else. It's a great time. And then also when we all get together, we all have this amazing chemistry together in this like Star Wars family. So like as an example, Rebel Scum, we were all goofing around, and like one night we all went go-kart racing, and it was so much fun. We're all like we're not supposed to hit each other. That was like one of the things that was said, but sometimes like if it like, someone's a little slow and you accidentally like cut the corner a little bit. But we just had a great time, and then we just like, went to in that same area. They also had this kind of like Dave and Buster's style, and so we're all playing games, and we were there for like 3 or 4 hours. So if we didn't like each other, there'd be no way we would, one, go on like a international ride or something together, but then also to you spend time outside of the con. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and Susanna's freaking awesome. She's the one that kind of helped out a lot with this.
Well, if you guys like didn't like each other, the go-karts would go awfully wrong. If
They would be, the go-karts would basically, what would happen is the start would happen, and then everyone would have pinned everybody against the wall, and it'd be
it would be bad. It would definitely be a civil war.
It would definitely be a civil war. Nice callback.
You're welcome. But we're gonna ask you this question anyway, so we're just gonna ask it right now.
Yeah.
So I saw this amazing, I think it was a little preview of the Civil War fan film about the Mandalorians. You're in it. A lot of other Mandalorians are in it. A lot of amazing people are in it. Can you tell? I know it's not out yet. I know you can't give us all the scoop and everything.
Right.
But can you tell us, what is this film about, and what is it meant for?
So you're right. We're still in the process of filming. We filmed a decent portion of it. We have some reshoots happening this fall, and then in March, I think we have something that we're doing as well. But the basics that I can give you is it's our point of view of what potentially happened after the Night of 1,000 Tears, and how this disconnect happened between the mercs that we see. It's the bows, night owls. You have Mercedes, Axe-Woves and Koska, but the rest of the blue boys, as some people might call them, but the mercs that we see in season 3, and then also the coverts. What occurred? Because when we see Clone Wars, we see that the Mandalorians clearly had their helmets off. They were okay with that. So what occurred, and what was the dogma that kind of, essentially made one race, or not one race, but one sect decide, hey, this is the way, no helmets, and then the other one being still like how they used to be. So it's a lot of fun in that dynamics. I don't want to say too much more than that. I do get to play a character that is sort of second in command, sort of like how I am in Mandalorian season 3 with Paz Vizsla. I'm kind of his right-hand man in this sense. I'm also the right-hand man of one of the main characters in that. And Daniel, who plays the Red Mando in Mando season 3 with me, and we get to do all these traveling and stuff together. But he's also plays a really badass character, and he gets some really cool stunt scenes in this as his character. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head, but maybe I'm not even supposed to say it, so that kind of works out. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. We have some people that came from Mandalorian, like Scott Wynn. He had helped out with like some of the catering and stuff, but he's a mastermind when it comes to a lot of special effects and bringing everybody together. We had a DP that worked on, I want to say it was Maverick. So we have a lot of great people who came together from different areas, and essentially we're all fans. We all love this universe, this galaxy. And so we're not saying that we're better than Disney Plus by any means, or Disney in general, or Lucasfilm. This is just fans coming together and saying, this is a story we would love to see, and we decided to create it from our point of view. Disney, Lucasfilm, obviously they can do whatever they want to in terms of what that story actually ends up being, but this is our point of view and our love story, or love note. I don't know how you would say it.
It's a notebook or notebook.
No, not notebook. I mean, hey, I am a sucker for romantic stuff like that. Hopeless romantic, but no, it's like I'm forgetting like the terminology right now, but essentially it's our love of Star Wars, and we're just sharing that with the fans, and it'll be able to be watched probably on YouTube or anything like that. And there's no money being made from it. It's just us showing our love to the universe that we all enjoy.
I love that. A lot of people do like the fan films. They do their side. Like I know a cosplayer of Ahsoka does like an Ahsoka film, a fan film, and she makes it. I reacted to that, so I can't wait to I can't wait to see it. When do you think it will be out? What do you have a date? Not a date, but do you have
like to it. I mean, I think obviously the goal or the time that we would love to have it out, May the 4th, Star Wars Day, or May is it 27th, the anniversary of when A New Hope was released. I don't know. It all depends on how the filming goes and the post-production on how in depth we go with that. But I would say either summer or fall of next year is a safe time.
I'll stay tuned to that, Rory. I'll be like, oh my God, that's Rory. I know him. I know him.
And you will see my face. I'll say that much.
So working on the set of the fan films of Civil War, and then moving on to the set of like The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba, and Obi-Wan. Now I'm going to ask you all about your characters. How does it feel playing a stormtrooper in Obi-Wan Kenobi? How is it like? I know in like, I don't know if you watch Star Wars Rebels, but like when Rex shoots like with Kanan, he's shooting, and Kanan's like, oh, that your shooting is off, like something's wrong. He's like, yeah, it's his armor. It's so tight. Now putting that armor on, how is it? Is it tight, or it's like not comfortable, but it's like, okay, it fits me. Like this shirt fits me. Okay, I'm comfortable in it.
Well, I think before I kind of answer your question of that, I just, for anybody who doesn't know already, and I apologize if you do, but I mean, the story is really important to me. It's like, the reason why I even love Star Wars is because when I was like 6 years old, I ended up in the hospital for about a month. And while I was there, my mom brought Star Wars: A New Hope. And so for me, being on Tatooine the first time with Book of Boba Fett was absolutely amazing. And then just in general, being a part of Star Wars and having this thing that gave me the hope and inspiration. And it's done the same for generations for many, many people at this point. It was so much fun, especially being on Kenobi. And it was me and my buddy Fedor. We were the first ones to actually have the outfit on. It was May the 4th, if I remember correctly, 2021. And we were the first ones that Ewan actually acted with in terms of being a stormtrooper. Because one, it's clones and in the prequels, and that was all CGI. And then two, is the first time he's actually been able to see the Empire and its strength. And so I remember when we did the scene, it took him back. And like he even talked about, I think in a Variety article, saying like how the fear was real. And the same for me when I saw Darth Vader for the first time, and you're like, oh my God, and Demetrius, who did a lot of the body performance of Darth Vader and Kenobi, he's a tall guy. And like when he has the cowl on and the whole mask, and it's like, he brought this presence, and he did, he said he did like 4 to 6 months of just movement coaching to get kind of this like power. And I'm like, bro, he's super talented. That was intimidating. So similarly, it was awesome to be able to give that same intimidation tactics to you. And then, it was Fedor and I that got to be the ones that basically tell him to move along and die you. And we're also the ones that failed the Empire, because clearly he's in a Jedi robe. I can see his face. The bounty had already gone out at this point, and we just paid him no mind. And he didn't even do a mind trick on us because he hasn't tapped into the Force. So we failed. But going to the armor side of things, like the armor is a tricky issue because it pinches all over the place. And so many times you'd see a lot of us like having our backs kind of like to an angle to relieve that pressure. But then also, I remember when I got to hold Flea and he's getting killed by the Grand Inquisitor. As I'm holding him, he decides to really thrash, because Deborah asked him to go all out, and I wasn't quite ready for that. And all of a sudden, he just starts going crazy. He's like, as he's getting to, basically what happens is I'm holding him. He's starting to freak out, and then we have this little dolly that he's on, and it goes closer to the Grand Inquisitor, and then kind of does the cut, and it's like, oh, he's dead. But right before that happens, I mean, he's just thrashing around, and I remember my whole arm right here was just like bruised, because that armor, the way it pinches and it's not as movable as you would hope. But that was pretty cool. I don't know how many people can say they've gotten hurt by a flea, especially on Kenobi. So I'll take that as a win for me.
Now, why does it pinch? Because it's just
I mean, the way it lays them, because also it's not particularly made for you in the sense of it's not made for each person, and so you may not fit it exactly the right way in that mold. And so then different places it might be a little longer in areas. So then as you're moving your elbows, all of a sudden it'll kind of start pinching like here, or it'll start kind of going into your forearm or your bicep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So now, how's it working with Deborah Chow?
I was
working with her.
She was always on set, was always very attentive and was very much a part of the process. I don't, there was no day that she wasn't on set. Whereas like sometimes on Mandalorian, we'd have different directors that are doing different episodes, but I think sometimes we'd have their first ADs like maybe do the scene or something, or they'd be on the side talking to, another actor as we're doing a pickup. But Deborah, I feel like she was always there and always just like, in mind, in touch of like everything that was happening. And so that was a lot of fun to have that. I think there were some things that we kind of missed out on some time to do. And I still think Kenobi is a fantastic show, and it's awesome to have this sort of connecting of a bridge, going in between the prequels and then into A New Hope, kind of seeing that time period and what was going on with Kenobi, why, what was happening in his mentality, and then him being able to finally connect with Qui-Gon and having his own journey was very cool. And so, just for me to be a part of that was an honor.
It must be. Working with Ewan McGregor must be really honored.
Yeah.
He's really talented. He really is.
He's very talented. I think my cat's going to make an appearance. 1 second. Come here, Miles.
The cat.
Leg.
Oh.
Loft cat. Right here.
That's a Loth cat. We found him.
Yeah.
Mr. Miles. He's cute. How old is Miles?
Miles is, how old are you, Miles? He's like, look at him. He is 11, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow.
He's a half Maine Coon, so he's a big boy. He's I want to say 17, 16 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Looks like a little Garfield cat, but not Garfield, but like that cat aura.
Right. Exactly. He's like a dog. It's funny, when I come home, he'll like start doing these things we call roly-polies. And so he'll like roll around and then be really excited. But yeah, I've become a cat dad now, and I've taken it with a lot of pride.
That's the best kind of dad, or
Right.
adult dad.
Oh yeah.
But my next question to you, Rory, is how is it like working as a Tusken Raider? Like that, you must have been going like this, ooh, like their noises all day long. How was it like working as a Tusken Raider? Like, what was the process going into that? What was it all about?
Yeah, well, I mean, so kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, the first film that I saw was A New Hope, and that all takes place on Tatooine.
Correct.
So the very first day I came in, I don't know if they had told me exactly what planet we were on quite yet, but I remember putting just on the robes, and that's a lot of, well, one, because it was my first day, it was just like a lot of overwhelming emotion happening as each layer is being put on, and realizing I'm playing such a legacy character. And then also, I think as we were putting on, they were kind of giving us some context of who we were, and saying like we were different than some of the other tribes that we've seen. Because prior to this, I think we've only seen, at least in the medium of like television or movies, we only saw them kind of as savages and, of this sort of like almost villainesque. And so it was really cool to have this chance to show a tribe who's just a tribe. They're there existing and taking care of their own. And, it was just like, this is cool. This is really cool to be able to tell the story of how, just because one person acts in a certain way of a group does not mean that the group all therefore is that person, just like in real life. And so to understand that kind of gravity and that seriousness, but also just this honor of being able to play this character was really cool. And I was an elder. And so what was also interesting was that they had filmed things out of order. And so the person who originally the outfit was made for was Greg Kufera. And he got to be on Mando season 2 and some of the other shows, but he was the one that actually dons on the robes of Boba and makes him part of the tribe. And so he kind of gave me a little bit of backstory as well. And so he and I made sure that connective tissue that he had already created kind of passed on into the story as we continued. And and then, and just being a Tusken Raider is also really interesting in wearing the mask, because when you're wearing the mask, so what happens is you have, your vision, where you can finally see, it's about an inch or so from the depth perception of where your actual eyes are. So you have that messing with your mind a little bit, and then you have no peripheral. And so many times we were always like running into each other, or we would just walk into each other as we're doing the daily camp life. And it's like, whoa. And I made the joke at Rebel Scum. I said, the real reason why Tusken Raiders walk in the line is not so that they can hide their numbers. It's just so they can see each other, because like, otherwise you're literally just going to have this domino effect happening. And many times we did, like doing the night scenes. I remember there was a few of us that kind of fell or ran into each other, and but it was a lot of fun. Tamora was a lot of fun to work with, and John, and then also having Robert Rodriguez on there was really cool too.
That's good. Now, how is it like working with like John and Rob and his name's Robert Rodriguez? Yeah. How was it like working with them?
It was fun. Obviously, especially on that, I played much more of a. While the character itself was very important in terms of the story, I would say that John and the directors, they're primarily focused on the main cast. However, they also were always making sure that we were okay, making sure that we taking care of ourselves, being hydrated, because it's California, so it gets really hot. Yeah, and so that was nice of them, and then also they would give us some context of what the scene was, and kind of allow us to play in this playground and kind of create our own perspectives on that information that we were given. And I remember there was one scene, it wasn't me, but it's when Boba brings in the speeders, and he's bringing it into the chieftain, and as he's like explaining how these speeders are going to work, there's all of us Tuskens that are kind of essentially dismantling this speeder right in front of him. And then what was really funny, there was one of us, his name is Kane. As he's telling him to stop, he kind of like throws a piece like, oh, I wasn't doing anything. And they really enjoyed that, so they kept that in there. And so again, it's just fun having those little snippets that we get to play our own perspectives and point of views on what's occurring in the actual story.
I would love to be on set with all of you guys. I might have to join you guys one day. You might just have to let me come through with your suitcase or something. There, I'm with Rory. Yeah. I know Rory. They go, Chris, we don't know who you are. No, Rory's in the back.
I don't know if I have that much weight, but I appreciate the the compliment.
I have Miles. Miles is okay. The cat is okay.
There you go. Yeah, Miles holds a lot more.
Just gotta talk to Rory. Just gotta talk to him. So now moving on. So you did the Stormtrooper, you did the Tusken Raider. Now we talked about the fan film that you're a Mandalorian. Now you played a Mandalorian in The Mandalorian. My next question is, so how is it that you became this Mandalorian? Like, did you watch I know you mentioned the Clone Wars earlier. Right. And of course, Rebels, they had Mandalorians in it, because in reality, we really didn't know in the prequels, and not even pretty much in the sequels, really, even in the New Hope and those 3 movies, we didn't know Mandalorians. They're from Legends or something like that. Yeah. So what became this Mandalorian journey for you, and how you went from Mando to playing in a fan film as a Mandalorian?
Yeah, so for me, what was really cool is that they like to keep people in the Star Wars family. So I went straight from Book of Boba Fett. I think I maybe had a week off, and then they asked me for Kenobi. And then I was on Kenobi for 6 months, filming that, and both in the volume and then also on location in different places. And then I think I had a 2-week break, and then they asked me to become a Mandalorian. Actually, they asked me first to become a pirate. So again, they filmed things out of order. I was originally a pirate on Navarro, and funny enough, the way they filmed it, and I'm not entirely sure how they do this, but it's my Mandalorian, if I'm not mistaken, that's actually kind of pointing the gun at my Nikto pirate. So it was really funny in how that all played out. But then I got to become the Mandalorian Covert Commander, and that was just really exciting, really cool. And again, that's where John just kind of says, hey, this is what's going on. Bo is coming in. She's apostate. So is Din Djarin. You guys don't think much of them at all. They're outcasts. And, now you decide how do you view them? Do you view them like, hey, maybe they did something wrong and that sucks, but like, you're not as tough on them? Are you potentially maybe feel sorry for them? Do you feel, are you angry? Are you ticked because they decided to disown the way, or he did, Well, both of them did in that sense, and you also maybe see Bo completely as this is why Mandalore fell, because if I'm not mistaken, it's Bo does it's when she's doing a negotiation that when the planet gets glassed, and so because of that, a lot of people view her as like she's the main reason. Clan Kryze is the reason why Mandalore fell in the first place. Correct. And so having all this kind of information, it was up to us to decide how we decided on that, or how we perceived that information. And so for me, I sort of, again, like when they said I was the right-hand man of Paz Vizsla, I was like, all right, so whatever Paz does, like I'm going down with that. So it's really funny when you watch the scenes, when Bo first comes in and, they're talking to us, I'm like, girl, not down with this. But then as soon as she's redeemed, I go, hey, what's up? How you doing? I was your fan right here the whole time. And they literally had me like stay with her. And I'm like, yeah, it's all good. And you just see me like kind of like supporting her and all this. But then as soon as her helmet goes off again and she walks both worlds, I'm like, what are you doing over there? So it's a lot of fun. You see a lot of different character and point of view that come out when you watch any of the Mandalorians, which is really cool. And to have that chance to take the ownership of that is quite an honor.
How cool is it from 1 to 10 to put that Mandalorian mask on?
It's really cool. I'm not gonna lie. And having the jetpack on, I would say I was probably the most buff, so to speak, that I've ever been by having the Mando suit on, because I want to say it was about 12 to 15 pounds, and that jetpack for a lot of us was actually like a lot of weight. So your back is getting ripped. You're getting ripped from holding this gun the whole time, and then running back and forth, whatever it might be doing. So just to be a Mandalorian, like how badass you look,
yeah,
pretty freaking awesome. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, unless you get to be a Jedi, then that's like Keller and Beck. Like, come on, Ahmed Best coming back. That was freaking awesome.
we might have a Rory Ross Jedi Master, or Ross Rory,
Hey. I'm never gonna say never on that one. That's always been the dream, to be Luke Skywalker's student at his Jedi Academy before the ransacking of Kylo Ren. So
you'll be alive in that. Don't worry. We'll push you off to the side if that ever comes.
Yeah.
So like you said earlier, you're fans of The New Hope when you were 6 years old. So what are your top 3 favorite Star Wars movies and why?
Okay, so New Hope, obviously, because that was the thing that gave me hope and inspiration when I was at the hospital. I would say, honestly, probably the second. It's probably Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, okay.
Seeing the downfall of Anakin and getting more context and just having this full kind of story, understanding why he was burned and just the travesty of it all. And I mean, even when you watch it and you watch Clone Wars and you see season 7 and you know what's going to happen, because Clone Wars is happening. Clone Wars is coming out after the prequels have already occurred. You know what's going to happen to Anakin. You don't necessarily know what's going to happen to Ahsoka, but Anakin's downfall and seeing all the things that he did and the missions and all the stuff. You see season 7 and you're hearing the clips and you're like, no, don't do it. Don't. It's too late. It's too late. But yeah, I mean, Revenge of the Sith has always been something that I really enjoyed. And I remember, seeing it when it first came out, and that was pretty awesome. I saw it in Texas, funny enough. So Revenge of the Sith, and then the third one. Attack of the Clones I like a lot. I would probably go Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, okay.
The storytelling on that and just the whole journey on that, and especially with Luke, I think is really interesting. I mean, I like Return of the Jedi as well, but Empire Strikes Back, I think they just had so many of these different cool planets. You got the Lando coming in and Boba for the first time too. So definitely.
Now, talking about movies, have you heard anything of the Mandalorian Grogu movie? I know you can't say if you're part of it or not. We're gonna have to wait and find out if you are. But can you say a little? Or I don't think you would even. I don't know.
I couldn't say anything even if I wanted to on that one. I think fans are just gonna have to wait and see what they're creating. that's the thing that they're working on right now. And then, who knows exactly what there, but I think it's gonna be a fun journey. I'm excited.
Don't worry. I'm gonna go to the movie theaters and I'm gonna be like, "Where's Rory's name? If he's not in here, I want my money back. I want my money."
I didn't say I'm in it, and nor could I say it, but yeah. I mean, I know some of the people that are in it, and just knowing the talent that they bring is, I myself as a fan, I'm gonna be invested in it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Top 3 favorite Star Wars characters and why?
You kill me, man. It's like asking to pick your favorite child.
It's like picking your favorite cat, you know?
Yeah, well, technically I do have a favorite cat, but I didn't say that. I love you, Miles. I do. In my head. Okay, so I mean, Luke Skywalker, again, because of the journey and the story and everything there. I would say Anakin also. Then the third, man, I don't know. I'm gonna plead the fifth on the third because there's too many good ones to pick from, just because of the different journeys. And I'm honestly also enjoying. I like some of the dark side characters too. When I was a kid, I played a lot of Star Wars Battlefront 2, the OG.
Oh, okay.
I used to play as Darth Maul, and I created the name Darth Rolla. So a little bit of affinity there for the red saber, I think.
Now, Rory, you said when you were 6, New Hope helped you. What was your Star Wars journey? I should have asked this question. Definitely should have asked.
Right.
It didn't even come in the top of my head until you started talking about it. I was like, oh, I should have asked him that. Oops, sorry.
Oh, good.
But what is your Star Wars journey? How did you become a big fan? Because like I said, not everybody on my show that I have watches the animation shows. They only watch like what I'm in. They do the research, blah blah blah, blah, cut paste, and that's it. But you play Battlefront 2. Like you said to me before the show, you were playing Lego Star Wars.
Yeah.
How did this amazing Star Wars journey become a reality for you?
I guess it depends on how much time we've got.
We got all the time in the world, buddy.
All right. Well, so I always kind of joke around that it began on a farm far, far away. I grew up on a small town farm in Blockridge, Iowa. I think we had about 100 people or so on the census when I was there, or when I was raised. In fact, our elementary school was half elementary school, half post office, and I don't think we even had a gas station from what I remember. But I grew up on a farm. We had exotic animals, emus, ostriches, Russian boars, all this kind of stuff. And then, like I said, about 6 years old, I remember all of a sudden my hair was falling off, and I was kind of freaked out about that and was like, "What's going on?" What ends up being that my scalp is literally falling off my head, and go through this whole kind of crazy process. End up in the Iowa City Children's Hospital, as I mentioned before, and I'm there for about a month and freaking out. I'm next to or close to. I was in the infectious disease ward originally. And then we were close to the cancer ward for some reason. But I remember seeing kids that got better and kids that that was the end of the line for them. And so, that was very traumatic. But my mom, it was the first day I was there. My mom brought Star Wars: A New Hope. And I remember watching that, and I watched that quite a few times during my stay. And it was Luke's journey, the hope and inspiration of his journey, and how he was able to overcome these insurmountable obstacles gave me the hope that I was going to be okay. And that was something I carried throughout my kind of stay there. And thankfully they were able to figure out what was going on, and we were able to stop it. But that's something that permeated throughout my life. And when I was about 13, I kind of had an Uncle Owen Luke situation where my stepdad and I, we just, didn't really see eye to eye on things. And so I moved away on my own to Seattle, Washington, and went to school there. But while I was there, I remember seeing they had this really cool exhibit called Star Wars, where science meets imagination. And I have pictures of me walking through there. And I remember seeing, I have pictures of me with a Tusken Raider. I have pictures with Boba Fett, with stormtroopers, all this kind of stuff. And so it's interesting being able to look back and see all these different moments. And then, I think for a lot of the different Halloweens, I've dressed up or had, different shirts on. And I remember when I went to college, we had this thing called the mask, and it was like our dating profile, but it was in printed form. And so you could see like different people's bios and all this stuff. So my bio, like if I remember correctly, and I went back and saw it, like the quote that I had on there was like, two or do not, there is no try. Not the best Yoda impression, but that was what was written on there. And then I have a picture. I might post it, but it's my masked dating profile picture is me with like friggin' Steve Urkel sort of like suspenders on, and then I had this bright blue shirt that had the Millennium Falcon, and it's that in the Bespin Cloud City, and I have a lightsaber in my hand. I'm going like this, like a Tusken Raider, kind of like, you know, doing the motion. I look goofy as hell, to be completely honest, and you know, hey, it is what it is. But it's really funny, like just kind of looking back and seeing those different things, and you know, and then also I also read the Thrawn trilogy. I didn't read a lot of the books. I remember reading a few of them, but the Thrawn trilogy was probably the one I remember the most. The Last Command, Dark Force Rising, and Heir to the Empire.
Right. I love Thrawn.
Like,
Thrawn.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I'm a huge nerd just in general. Like, my mom, I was homeschooled for a little bit after the whole hospital stuff that happened, and I had to, in order to watch Lord of the Rings, I had to do a book report on the Hobbit, and then Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King. And so I would say it's Star Wars first, then it's Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. They're like really close up in there. But having a chance to say thank you to frickin' Timothy Zahn last year, and like nerding out and saying, "You're the father of Thrawn," like, thank you so much. And he's like, "But you're a freaking Mandalorian." I'm like, "But you're the father of Thrawn." And it was just like almost like Spider-Man like pointing at each other.
Yeah.
It was surreal. The friggin' surreal, man. And just so friggin', it was a blast. It was a blast. And then, you know, when I was in college, originally I studied to be an aerospace engineer, again, because of space and science and Star Wars. And, you know, and then I ended up switching, but STEM, science, technology, education, mathematics, that's something that's still very important to me. And I'm still a part of some organizations that help out with that. And they utilize the droids from Star Wars. They actually just did something on May the 4th. They did this huge celebration and brought all these different kids in. And one of my buddies, Ermer, he had a full-on, I want to say he had a full-on droidica, and then a BD-1, or not BD-1, one of the battle droids. I'm forgetting the actual terminology off the top of my head, but had that. And I was like, that's so cool. And so next year I told them, I said, because May the 4th is typically when a lot of conventions want us. But I said, I am super down to go ahead and have my voice on like a droid or something to inspire these kids to jump on the bandwagon and essentially encourage them to do science, technology, education, and mathematics, because that's really important. And I think that's something that needs to get more notice. And so, yeah, man. I have pictures of me from like 2016 at E3 with Battlefront and Stormtroopers and all this stuff. And so, again, watching Clone Wars, D. Bradley Baker doing all the amazing voices that he does, and Matt Lanter and Ashley Eckstein. It's crazy. It's surreal to be able to have that moment. And then, sort of the full circle really is in 2020, as everything's kind of going crazy with the pandemic and etc. It was there in the fall. I was like, I'm going to do a thing called Born to Be the Jedi. And I'm going to let people know, like, this is what I want to be in Star Wars, you know, and about being Luke Skywalker's student as Jedi Academy, and like really pushing that, manifesting. And I told a friend, they created a Jedi outfit for me, Jedi robe, custom made, freaking awesome. And then me and another friend, we actually went up to where they filmed season 2, where they did the debut of Boba Fett, because at this point season 2 had already come out, or was coming out. So we did a photo shoot there. And then in that Christmas, my girlfriend, absolutely amazing, cannot speak highly enough of her. She brought me and made me a Star Wars figure of myself as Jedi Master Ross.
Oh, wow.
And then 2 months later, I'm on set with Tamara Mallory, a childhood kind of hero from different shows that I watched. We're talking about dreams and manifesting. And then an hour after that conversation, I get the text about being a Tusken Raider on Book of Boba. And it was just like,
oh, wow.
Wow. Thank you, universe. You know?
Thank you, the far, far small galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah, the journey's been crazy. It's been wild. I feel like sometimes I've lived many lifetimes. I've gone through a lot of, for lack of better words, shit and turmoil and adversity. And so to have the opportunity to finally have a moment where it felt like, wow, this is awesome. This is what I've worked towards, and I have gone through the crucible to find myself at this crossroad and have this opportunity. I don't want to take it for granted, and I'm not. And still, like, part of that is whenever I do a convention, I do 5% of everything I make that goes back to the Iowa City Children's Hospital to say thank you and to help out the foundlings, because this journey's been crazy. It's been wild, and I'm very fortunate and blessed to have the outcome that has happened.
That's amazing. Maybe we could do something, Rory, for the children. We should. I think I have a good plan. We'll talk after the show.
All right.
But I have an idea. Things are, when I come up with ideas, it's so weird how I could come up if I'm walking, if I'm doing my exercise, I'm like, oh, I can make that into a pin design. Like, I'll just be like doing like the craziest. And when you said that, I was like, okay, I think I got.
I'm intrigued.
I will. I'll tell you after the show. So we're coming down to the wire to the show, Rory. Can you tell people that want to be in your type of work, your stunt work, your acting work, can you give them your advice to anybody out there that's wanting to do this but are too scared, or maybe they're not built enough, or maybe they have their fears? Oh, I'm too skinny, I'm too this. The world out there, this world today is like that. Do you have any advice for those people that are scared and wanting to do this, but they don't have that little power to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. And I'll be honest, like, LA is not for the light of heart. There's a lot of people that say no to you. You'll get a lot more no's than yeses. And so you have to make sure that you're not taking things personal. There's so many reasons why a role is chosen the way it is. Maybe it's because it just so happens that director knows that person, or they wanted somebody of different height because the main actor is a different height. Like, there's a plethora of reasons as to why you won't get cast. With all that being said, if it's something you truly want and or something that you're inspiring and you want to do, the biggest thing I can say is not necessarily come out to LA, but blossom where you're planted. And what I mean by that is find your community near you. There's tons of people backstage, LA casting or casting networks, or even just finding different acting classes, because that's where you're going to find people that are also have that drive and want to create. And when you find that, you can create your own projects. You can create your own stories. You can, again, create your own family. And from that, build your own repertoire of material, because you need to have a reel. Because once you become SAG, which is the Screen Actors Guild, you're now competing. If you're a guy, you're competing against Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, etc. And then for the ladies, you got Jennifer Lopez, Jennifer Lawrence. Like, I mean, there's so many very talented people. And so you want to make sure that as much as you can, before you make that plunge, I would highly encourage to go ahead and have a nice reel where you have a lot of speaking roles. And again, sometimes you have to create your own opportunities, and that's where it's really important to find the people that you're there with. You can film on your iPhones. iPhones are pretty damn good at these days.
Yeah, I'm filming it right now on my
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to Apple. You're figuring it out. Same with Androids. I'm cell phone agnostic somewhat in that sense. But there are so many tools available for you that there's not a reason why you can't start creating things right now, even if it's on your own. But I would highly encourage you, find an acting class, if not only to go ahead and find people if you don't already know some people, and just create your own stuff and go from there. And then the other thing too, kind of going back to my girlfriend, she's absolutely amazing, is I have the saying that says, everyone has the ability to do great things. Sometimes it takes someone else's eyes to see what already lies within. So you have to find people that you trust, that care about you. And when they tell you that you are talented and they tell you a compliment, take that, receive that, and understand that they're being able to see the potential inside you that is already lying there. It's already exists. Sometimes you just need to have someone else remind you about it.
To push you.
Yeah.
Rory, don't make me cry. Don't do it to me, Rory. Don't do it. But my last question to you, Rory, is what's next for you? what is on your list, an agenda during the week? What is next for you, Rory? Because you're a busy man with some money in your pants.
Yeah.
But what is next for you, my friend?
Man, I don't entirely know the answer to that. Sort of like I was just saying earlier about creating your own opportunities. My girlfriend and I, we have a production company called Vision Ray Entertainment, and so we have our own stories that we're trying to create. And we have some pretty enticing things that are happening, and we're still working towards that. I have my own Star Wars fan films. We're in pre-production of that, and hopefully, it looks like the strikes are going to be averted. So now things are starting to pick up, which is really nice, because before it was just dead here in Hollywood. And so hopefully that's going to pick things up, get some more auditions. But again, it's about creating my own opportunities. And if you're at Comic-Con San Diego, I will be there. I'm going to be at the 501st Bash. They're supporting Project Starlight for the kids there. And then I will also be at Mos Eisley. So be on the lookout there. And hopefully, I think August 3rd, I'm going to be over at Torpedo Comics in Woodland Hills. And just, if you see me, it's always a great time. Always happy to nerd out. And again, 5% of everything that anyone purchases from me, that goes to the Iowa City Children's Hospital. Always trying to find ways of giving back. And that's how we do it.
I'm going to have to get you to come to some comic shops in New Jersey, Roy.
Hey, I was in New Hampshire. So, it's not, it can happen. It can happen.
But Rory, thank you so much for coming on the Scevoli Tonight Show. You're an amazing talent to this world. Your work is incredible. Your love for Star Wars is 100% accurate.
Right. I'll say this though. I hope we're seeing some more the world between worlds, because I want to know if. Actually, I'll ask you this, Chris, because I'm just curious.
Okay.
Do you think that Ahsoka actually fell into the veil in the world between worlds, or was it all in her mind and she's just being projected in there?
I think she fell in. I don't know, because it's weird, because it's like, how do you just fall in to it? Like it's right. like you really have to sit down. Like at the moment, it's amazing. Like with Star Wars, it has to make sense.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, I'll tell you. Even if I'm on the set, I'm an actor of Star Wars, I will tell you it's totally doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
When I saw that scene, I saw it in theaters.
Oh,
so yeah, I saw it in New York. They did like screenings for episodes. So that was, I think, one of the episodes. I think it was that episode. Not too sure, but I think it was in theaters. And I remember going, oh, everybody gasping and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there, and I love Star Wars. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of live action.
Okay.
I love animation. Animation will always be home to me. It's like my New Hope. What you were saying.
Okay.
It's like that. Ahsoka, I love animation Ahsoka more than live action Ahsoka. Anakin, I love animation Anakin more than live action Anakin.
Yeah.
I really, and I always said this on my show. I said, if they're gonna open the world between worlds, they have to do it right.
Right.
To me, like you said, it could be all in her mind. And I never actually thought about it, because when I saw the scene, I really didn't care for it that much. I wanted that to happen. Like, I wanted Matt and Ashley to have that moment, because they deserve that moment. They deserve that credit, not Rosario and Hayden. No cut to them, no diss to them at all. But I think Ashley and Matt deserve that moment to see each other in the world between worlds. So I would have cried. I would have died. But in live action, I just didn't feel it. And that's my opinion. Anybody else's opinion, go right ahead.
Yeah.
But that was my opinion. And then to see her wind up in the ocean, and it's like, what really happened? Like what was the I know the flashbacks were for her to overcome her fear to Anakin, because she always had that guilt that she left him, he went to the dark side. She always had that guilt.
Right.
And then Anakin was like, and in reality, that was his faith anyway. That was his faith. Whatever would happen, I always say if she was there, it could have changed. It definitely could have changed because Ahsoka was closer to Anakin than anybody else, really. Padme, Obi-Wan, it was always Ahsoka. Right. So losing Ahsoka, you take that half part of his 100% Jedi, you take 50% of that away. Now it's left with Obi-Wan and Padme. Qui-Gon's gone.
Right.
So who do you really have left? And in Yoda telling him, oh, well, it's just, you'll get over it, you'll be fine,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And it's like, all right, that's not really like motivation. Thank you, Yoda.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, was it in her mind? Maybe. Like, I wouldn't put it past that if it was, because you would have to have a special opening to the War of the Worlds. And someone falling in to, like, water.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it unless she connected to it.
The one thing I was just thinking as you're saying that is, though, there's Morai,
yes.
Yeah.
But we don't see
like potentially Morai. Maybe that might be her access point. Like maybe
it, correct. But that's like far-fetched too, because we really don't see her. Morai.
Well, she was in Ahsoka.
Yes, at the last episode.
Yeah. So she's obviously around.
Yeah, so we don't know where she was. She might have been in Alaska. We don't even know where she was. For that. And then we see her when the last episode. And it's like, what is really going to happen here? Like, it's very interesting. Like, I love Ahsoka. Ahsoka's my favorite character. Even if it's not animation, I'm still going to like what the story is. You know what I mean? What the story will become.
Yeah.
And without Ray Stevenson here, that's another hard part.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard rumors that they're going to recast him, which I really don't want that because he brought so much to that character. That is Balin. That is whoever plays him, I give them the 100% credit to them.
Right.
It's not the Balin that we all know and love. It's going to be different. It's not going to be the same way. It's not going to be different. But yeah, that was a good point. You actually got me on that one. I never was really asked that question, but I think I answered it to the best, I think, of my Ahsoka knowledge, because I really know a lot about Ahsoka.
Yeah.
But the War Between Worlds I love, and I wanted them to do it right. Did they do it right there?
The Anakin, like having Anakin and Vader and that whole flashback was really dope. And then just to see the Clone Wars flashback, it was like,
correct.
Oh.
And like I said before, it has to make sense.
Yeah.
It has to. Did that part have to be in the show? No. That part right there with the Clone Wars flashback, Siege of Mandalore, we've seen all that. We've seen what went on in that season 1 to season 7 with them, right. And then we see season 7, she comes back, she's with Anakin again, and then Anakin's on the Siege of Mandalore. So it's like, how? Where were you actually? Like, you should have went there because Ahsoka called you, but you were too helping the Chancellor. You know what I mean? And I think that's what she says. You were busy. You were helping the Chancellor. Like, you helped him.
Yeah.
But did that need to be in there? No. Did training like her, listening to his holograms? Yeah, bring back Anakin, because at the end of the day, that's an important step to her story.
Right.
But did I think that part needed to be in there at that moment? No. But I understand why it was a little, because she lost the fight. But she lost the fight because of Sabine. She thought Sabine died. Or Sabine got her.
But
so
I think
understand
why they were bringing it in was to show in some ways, her feeling like she failed her pupil, and similar with Anakin and like her relationship. So I think I would debate that. I think that was actually a good thing to have in, seeing the Clone Wars aspect of it too, because that's when they were the closest. And then getting that sort of the variation of that, and then he's like, "You lack conviction," and he like, it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, was it all cool? It was very cool, and it was good to see. The best part, I think, it was to see what Vader would have really been like if his legs weren't cut off. You know, like what that Vader would have been the most unstoppable force.
Would be pretty intimidating. I hope they do a what if series. That would be really cool.
I really hope they do good what ifs though. They do like the good ones, like the ones we want. We don't want like what if like Mando wasn't never Mandalorian. Like okay, right. we don't want that. We'll see that later on. But give us like the ones like what if Ahsoka never left the Order? What if Ahsoka joined Maul? What if Anakin never turned to the dark side? What was his life? What would that be like? You know, I heard some rumors that it would be. That is a possibility, but I don't really know. I can't say, but would I love to see it? If it's animation, I'm there, baby. But yeah, that's my take. It does make sense what you said too. It does. That leads up to that. But you know, hey, I don't bash the shows like everybody bashes the Acolyte. I don't bash it. I like it. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and bash everybody's like people's opinions like that. I don't do that either. Like, you want to have your opinion, go right ahead. If I like Rory Ross, let me like Rory Ross. You know, if you don't like Rory Ross, okay, but let me like him. You know,
right.
Leave me alone. You know, everybody hates. Like, you can't like anybody that everybody hates. You know what I mean? Makes no sense to me. But I agree with everybody's opinion on the show. Like I say, like, we don't fight on the show. We go, you have your opinion, I have mine. You liked it, I didn't. Yay! Yeah. Break. Like, that's really much it. Like, it's not like people go back and forth, arm to arm, bars.
Yeah. I'm with you there.
Me and Rory are classy people. Like, we are. But Rory, before we end, where can everybody find you on the social medias?
Yeah, so everyone can find me at the Rory Ross. That's Instagram, X, Twitter, however you want to call it, Facebook, and then also theroryross.com. I do have a website, so if you want to order a print, I believe that's still open on that.
Oh wow!
But, I mean, I love interacting with people, especially at different cons, and like I said, I'll be at Comic-Con, so come by and say hi.
Gotta come to the New Jersey area, Rory.
I know, man.
gotta come. But Rory, once again, thank you so much for coming on the Scevoli show and talking Star Wars with me. You're welcome back on the show whenever you're free, because you're a busy Ross. You know, you're a busy guy. But I appreciate everything you do for the Star Wars world, Mandalorian. I can't wait to see what project you're in next. I hope you're in the Mando movie, but if you're not, you know, I hope they bring you back for maybe Ahsoka season 2, the Acolyte. Maybe we could see you in the Acolyte. You know. I don't know, other live act, maybe I don't know if they're doing season 4 of Mando. Maybe they'll just jump right into the movie. I have no clue. So I hope to see you again, you know, maybe even a bigger role, like more screen time, and I get to go, I know that guy. That's but thank you so much, Rory. So much for everything. And we're going to talk about donating do a little special thing for the charity that you have. So guys, thank you for joining me on the Scevoli show. Stay tuned for more, and be kind to one another, and may the force be with you, my friends, always. This is the way.
This is the way.
In my life, when you find people who need your help, you help them, no matter what.